I'm Dr. Christi Doherty, and I'm excited to celebrate Women's History Month with a series of conversations featuring influential women leaders in our organization. We'll chat about their career journeys, how they juggle work and life, and the ways they make time for self care. It's a great way to hear their stories, get inspired, and recognize the incredible impact of women in healthcare and education. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Dr. Dientje Francis-Lawrence. She's the Senior VP and General Manager of the Healthcare segment at Kaplan. So thank you for joining me today, Dientje.
Thank you for having me, Christy.
Okay, but let's just jump right in. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about your current role and your journey in healthcare and education.
Sure. So currently I run the health segment, as you said. I'm a general manager, which involves managing the P&L. So helping drive sales, helping ensure that we stick to all operating income targets. It's essentially how we continue to grow our business. So I have the health segment of that. It's a B2B business. There's a B2C element to it. I have a rather large team and a very complex set of products. I always joke that I have a lot of doctors and nurses who work for me, and everybody's so smart all the time. I've been in this role for about 6 months, but I started at Kaplan 3 years ago, and I've been in education all of my career. I started off in the classroom actually, and in K-12, and sort of have over time morphed into working in ed tech. So super excited to chat about all of the topics we've planned for today.
Ah, awesome. Quite a varied history you have, I'm sure. Um, can you describe any unique challenges you might have had in your journey as a woman that you've been presented with and how you overcome them?
So that's such a great question. Like unique to, I guess the first time I realized that maybe my journey was a little bit different was when I got pregnant for the first time. And it's different for everyone, but I remember, being in this meeting, and I was going out on maternity leave very soon. And one of the gentlemen said to me, at least I'm not going on vacation for 2 months. I'm taking my job seriously or something like that. And I thought, oh, that is not how I'm viewing this situation. And then I went out, had the baby, came back, and the adjustment of being a mother of a small child, I was determined to like feed them and stick to certain schedules. I found it was very, very difficult. I found it was very hard to continue to be the mother I wanted to be. At the same time, taking care of myself, taking care of my kids, but also being the kind of employee I wanted to be, because I've always been ambitious. I've always been the kind of person who's wanted to grow. And so I really struggled to balance that. And I realized up to that point, I hadn't thought that there was a difference at all. There was any challenge at all. But certain parts of my day had to be taken up. I had to find a breast pump room. I had to do a lot of different things. And a lot of my male colleagues did not have that, right? And so, and then the mental load of coming back to work after having a child. I remember the night before I went back to work, I was out for 2 months, just sitting down and crying like a baby because my baby was going to be home with someone else for the first time. And so that struggle and that load stayed with me for a good year. It was very, very hard to remain focused during that time. And so to me, like that was the first time I realized, oh, it's not exactly the same journey. And I wasn't treated any differently, which I didn't want to be treated differently necessarily. But my experience was very different, and the struggles I had were very different. And that's when I started. I actually founded a organization called Women in Learning and Leadership at that time, because I wanted to support ambitious women who are also, whether they had babies or not, or whatever their paths were, to say like your journey might be different, but your ambition that you have can make a real impact on your company and your family's life and your life. And I wanted to equip them with like different tools and tips and tricks that I learned along the way to help them navigate their careers. And I think that's the first big example. Like there have been other times along the way where, I'm sure every woman has an example of a time when they felt like, well, I was addressed differently because I'm a woman. And that comes in different shapes and forms, but I think that's the first time that it really stood out to me in a major way.
Well, it's so interesting you could parlay that into an organization that you created to help others. That's just so wonderful. Where do you find the time and the energy?
I don't have any time. It's hard to find time, but you know what? It really filled up my cup. And I would say, like, one of the things along the way, as you think about taking care of yourself, and there have been some people I've followed on that, things that fill your cup, they come in different shapes and forms. Like talking to other women who faced similar struggles to me, encouraging them, getting encouraged by them, helped me a lot. I didn't have the time, but I can tell you, it brought me a lot of joy. It brought me a lot of joy to hear their stories. I share my stories. And so it helped me as much as it helped them. Um, and I would say, everybody's different, and be careful about how you spend the energy you have, because you get less and less of it as you get older, I think. But I do think those kinds of interactions can be really fulfilling along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have some competing priorities in your home because you have one baby who's not a baby anymore. And if I know right, I believe you're kind of that sandwich generation. You also have parents that are
Yes.
close by as well. So how does that impact your daily life?
Yeah, so I have my parents that I take care of, and actually my mom still lives with me. And then I have my three, you have 12, my twins that are 12, and then I have a 15-year-old. You know, in day to day, what I really honestly struggle with, even in the healthcare piece, is just managing my health as I think about the complexity of it as my parents' health. Because as they get older, there's more and more complexity. But I mean, Christy, you know this too. Like there's all the things you have to advocate for them and help and support them. And then, I joke all the time, each of my kids is like at least 5 doctors they see, between a pediatrician, a dentist, and they're growing kids. So they just have a list. One has a podiatrist. Like he's a random flat foot, Christy. So I have to I have to structure those things. And then there's me, there's a complexity of being a woman. You have 2 doctors at least you have to see most of the time every year. And so managing that can be just the logistics of that have been very hard to do. But what I've been very good at, I call it delegating. Like I delegate. There are things my mom cannot do that I do for her, but there's a long list of things she does for our family. And I have trained my children from the time they were very young to be more independent about doing things for themselves. I remember with the twins, and they were like, I had 3 under 3 for a while. They must have been 5, 6, and now we taught them the differences in colors. So I said, guess what? We're gonna learn to sort laundry. So you can put the colors and the whites and the ones that are like not so dark, put them in the middle. So they started learning to do laundry from very young, because they just were able to they were sorting colors. So why not have the kids sort the laundry? Because there's a million family of 6, you got so much laundry all the time. And so I remember I really pushed my kids to be independent, like in terms of learning what are the things that they have. And one of the things I've learned along the way, they may not be able to schedule a doctor's appointment, but there's always things they can do. And they are a lot more capable of doing things than we think they are. So even if my youngest, he's got sports, I said that your job is to manage your sports. What's your checklist? What's the things? That way, mommy just picks you up and we go. And then, of course, my husband steps in a lot. It's great to have a great partner who can pick up a lot of the stuff, whether it's cooking, whether it's cleaning, whether it's managing a million doctor's appointments and scheduling them and going back and forth. So it kind of, even with my husband and I, it's too much. Bringing other people in to help you and bringing the kids in makes a big difference. I don't know how to do it otherwise, because it's super challenging to manage them all. And I would say, my piece of advice to any person out there is that you're not going to always get it right all the time. And so ask yourself, what can I live with and what can I not live with? And so a lot of times I have to live with things like I look at my sons and I go can I live with the fact that they're walking out the door with their hair all crazy? I can live with that because they're on time to school. So that's what matters. And they'll learn to. I will be stressed out, but
I think that's a real good point. I think a lot of women are perfectionist, and that gets in the way of their success sometimes. So it's good that you're able to set that boundary and go, it's okay.
It's okay. I have to give myself a lot of breaks. And I remember, and a lot of what I talk about, might feel like it's more relevant to parents, but I think this is true for anyone. When you go out into life, you have a vision of how your life is going to play out, right? Maybe that's just a woman thing, but you do have a vision about how your life is going to play out. It doesn't always play out that way, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be great. At the end of the day, even though their hair is a mess, which still trying to solve that problem. They're still learning at school. And if they bring back the right grades and they're turning in their assignment, that's okay. And if my house is a bit of a mess through the weekend and I didn't get it all done, I don't have to carry that burden into work on Monday, because it will get done. At some point, no one has died because there's too much laundry in the house. There's always too much laundry in the house. So I think of things like, what is the thing that I can't live with falling apart? If my kid is sick, if I think they need to see a doctor, that's going to sit on my conscience. I have to make that happen. If there's something for work, someone needs something, I've got to make that happen. And so I try to balance things as much as I can. I will also say, you won't always get it right on the personal front as well as the professional front. And you won't always be able to. Sometimes you have to make a sacrifice personally for your profession. Sometimes you make a professional sacrifice personally, and it's okay. It's okay. That's how life is. You can't always, we have this idea that there's a perfect balance. There isn't. It's like always like this all the time. And so being at peace with it when it's like this is the trick, I think, for surviving. I'm not always at peace, Christy, but I really try. And I found out over the years, if I don't have this bar in my head that it's all supposed to be trucking along steadily and balanced, it's okay. And one more thing I'll say, it's probably that sandwich generation phase too. Like, it's about surviving. And so as your kids get older and things change, you probably get to a little more balance. But there's places and times in your life, seasons in your life, when balance is just a dream and you just manage, survive from day to day and try to figure out, how do I juggle? And how do I, at any one point, make sure that one is not so far down that I can't live with that? What can I live with? Has been my approach to surviving perfectionism, for sure. And you know me, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, just a little bit, for sure.
Yeah, just a little. No.
Just a little.
That's where you got where you are. That is how you've gotten there. So you mentioned it earlier that you don't always find time for self-care, but when you do, what do you try to do for yourself? Not the kids, not the parents, not the husband. What do you try to do for yourself?
That's such a great question. One of the things that I love doing, actually, I've been trying to figure out how to do absolutely nothing. Like how to relax and just, go to the beach, watch the water, maybe do a little journaling like people say you should do, which I've never been able to keep a consistent diary in my life. But now and then I feel like it really helps clarify my thinking. But learning to do nothing, I mean, that's really hard for me. And so finding that space to just be thinking and meditating, or just in some cases praying, because I go to church, I'm a woman of faith, that makes a big difference to me in terms of settling. And if I could do it first thing in the morning, that's a really big deal. The other thing I would say is, this is advice for anyone, no matter what age you are, no matter how busy your life is, find 30 minutes to walk, find 30 minutes to get moving. And I think, you will never regret that, one. But also it really can change not just your body, but your mind. And so as I've gotten older, I've learned to prioritize more and more physical movement, and whether it's building muscle or any of those things, that's really key. And I find that very useful. I also find, to be honest, hugging my kids and like joking around with them to be just the best time. So it gives a lot of energy. So spending time with your loved ones, I think that's, to me, a really big deal. Laughing with them as much as you can, I think fills up my cup and makes me, happier and rejuvenated for the next thing, for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like you found the joy in your life, and that's so important.
Yes. For sure.
Well, you've given a lot of great tips. Is there any other advice you would share to someone watching it, maybe a woman just beginning her leadership journey, on what are the best way for her to approach it to maybe get into a position like what you have in their future?
Yeah, that's thanks for asking that question. I was thinking about that. And one of the pieces of advice that I got actually not too long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and that I've always sort of kept close to my heart, as I say, be 10% braver. Just 10% braver is what he was my manager at the time, and he said, you have good ideas. When you finally say them, we realize that they are great ideas, but I have a feeling you hold a lot back. And so I said, just be, and for a lot of women, like being assertive can be difficult. And maybe it's my generation, maybe your future generations won't be. But being truly assertive can be a bit of a challenge. But being 10% braver is an achievable thing, I think. And over the years since that time, I've probably gotten 180% braver. So the Dientje that you met, Christy, was not the Dientje 5 years ago. Because what it made me realize as I started being 10% braver, guess what? Like, yeah, sometimes I didn't say the right thing or do the right thing or whatever it is. But I realized, oh, the world didn't end. And actually, I've made good progress, and it's helped me get to where I am today. So even now, I say to myself, just be 10% braver. Say what you have to say. Being wrong doesn't mean that you are not worthy. You are enough. Say the things you have to say. And most people who are super successful have failed a lot. So if you haven't failed a little, you're not learning and you're not improving. So be 10% braver and do it. Just do it. That's what I say.
Wow, powerful, powerful words of advice.
Well, you're a
I
brave woman too,
appreciate
Christy.
that, and I know others will appreciate that from you as well.
Thanks, Christy.
All
It was
right.
a
Well,
hard lesson to learn, for
yeah,
sure.
I can imagine it would be hard to fail and hard to be brave sometimes. So I get that, especially in the arena that you are functioning in at the very high
Mhm,
level. So
mhm.
yeah, I can see that.
I think it's hard. Like it depends on who you are as an individual. Some people are more likely to take risks, but at any level, right? Like being brave, saying what you think. I'm not saying you like be disrespectful, saying your ideas, asking the question you want to ask. There, if you're in a place where that is punished, then you're in the wrong place. There's nothing wrong with you, just in the wrong place. Find the better place. And so you should be able to be 10% braver without any negative impact to your career, to your personal life, professional life, for sure.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, Dientje. Thank you for your candid response. Loved your insights, and we appreciate you speaking with us today.
Thank you for talking to me, Christy. It was great chatting with you.
All right.